out that somebody sent us today. You're on.
I know, I just wanted to make, okay, here's today, nice.
In your house. That's somebody.
No, you don't. You might not make it home tonight.
Yeah. 8139. I told you I couldn't see. Yeah, 977-8139. Please, thank you.
No, you're fine. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Did you have a nice vacation?
Of course. All right, first on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes from the November 15th curriculum meeting. Questions, concerns, or changes? It's been a while. Okay. All right. Next, I have our homeschool visitors, so school social workers that are here to discuss some topics that were asked at the Building Safety and Grounds meeting in November. They're going to talk about their tardy procedures and so forth. So I'm going to turn it over to them for a few minutes.
Hi, for those of you who don't know, I'm Shannon. I'm here at the elementary. I'm just going to kind of answer a few bullet points that were given to us. The first is the number of student lates in each of the schools. On average, in the elementary school, there's about 78 students that are late each day. As far as monitoring and tracking those, I use Skyward data. Every week I'm looking at our attendance data as required to send letters home for students who have unexcused absences. And with that data, I can also see the kids who are coming in late. We do not have anything in our current policy that states anything about being late for school. There's nothing in compulsory ed law that states anything about being late for school either. So it really has never been,
There's no state law that says you have to be on school on time?
no.
There's no school policy, there's no school attendance policy, like a consequence at some point?
Not for
They said they'll look
tardiness.
into that.
So there's nothing that so many minutes late equals a massive amount of missed time. Because if you're late 20 minutes
That
every
doesn't
day,
make
5
sense.
days a week, the whole school year, this adds up big time. There's nothing that equates anything in one
Okay, so
day.
here's my question then. So how are we taking people to the magistrate when they're continuously tardy? Because that's what I was told before that we did, so we're not doing that?
I will let them answer that.
So for the middle school and high school, the attendance are taken by periods. And how the Skyward works is that if you are absent 3 or more periods, between 3 and 4 periods, you're marked as a half day. And so when we pull number of the students or the students with the number of days of absent, if you have 2 lates, that would add up to 1 day. But each period does not, like 45 minutes plus 45 minutes, it does not add up that way. But at the elementary school, I believe that
Okay, so that's just the elementary school you're talking about?
No, elementary school, the attendance are taken once a day. But middle school and high school, we take them by periods. So if you miss between 3 and 4 periods, it's considered half day.
That's unbelievable. So do we have to do a policy to like change that thing?
Let me investigate the law and the policies we have, let's take it from there, then we can update everyone before the next curriculum.
Yeah, because after seeing all these kids come in here late every single day, and then teachers telling me, the parents just drop them off whenever they feel like dropping them off, that's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, we need to do something about that. Somebody needs to be held accountable for it.
And within that, if we could add that the parents have to bring them in, not drop them off.
Yeah, drop them off on the
We
corner.
need to inconvenience them.
Right, absolutely.
Make them sign up.
Yeah,
exactly.
I always thought that's how it was.
No.
Years and years ago, it was.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. When I was back on the first board,
Yes.
yeah, it was like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't remember it being like that with my kids.
No, because when my kids went to school, my daughter got in trouble because she kept coming in late when she drove herself. And I didn't know they were coming in late.
But if I brought my kids to school, I can't with them.
Right.
Yeah, I don't.
But you don't
Yeah,
have
we need to
why
look
we
into
drop them at the door.
And keep it going.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So
Oh, yeah,
many
you should
years
see the
ago,
elementary school, what they do.
many years ago, you had mentioned we had the refusal to entrance placed. I don't know exactly how many years ago it was, but like if you came to school more than 2 hours late, you were refused to enter.
So who changed it?
I do not know. And there was a problem with that, like when, especially for elementary school student, if they're being dropped off, you can't say goodbye and, hope something good happens.
But they do.
Yeah,
Because I've
so-
seen it outside. They've dropped their kids off out front as the day has already started, and then the poor security guard has to check them in.
Okay.
What?
Teresa wants to say something.
Yeah? Because I've seen it, so don't tell me it didn't happen.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I'm not here to tell you what
Okay.
happened, but since the last time that this concern was brought to our attention, but not that we didn't know was happening, but we did, Shannon and I met, and with her intern from Penn, we kind of did like an action research from the Thanksgiving break to December winter break. And kind of like, they were out there on the sidewalk, talking to families, handing slips to them, saying, your child is late, you need to be here by this time. They got sworn
Yeah, I witnessed that too.
cursed at, ignored.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was a really,
They know these best people.
They know
They
you.
say hi now.
I saw a police officer out there telling them they weren't allowed to park
She
there, and they
was
still parked there
relentless.
anyway.
And
Yeah.
but I think, and we debriefed after that, like after the holidays, we talked about that, and we averaged, like you said, it was like about 70 lates. But really, we have almost 1,300 students, so that is a smaller percentage that are coming in late. And here's the one good thing, they are coming to school.
I understand they're coming to
So-
school, but that still doesn't give them the right to drop their kid off late
No.
every single day.
I agree.
Whenever they
So,
want.
with that, we, small small amount of people, we rose their awareness. Like, you know, this is really important. We care. We need you to be here. In my family handbook to students and families, it says that you should walk your child to the door, that we expect you to bring your child in and sign your child in. But when they drop their kid off and speed away, we have to take their child in. So that's what, you know, so if, you know, she's not out there every day doing
Right.
that, then,
Shame on
you know,
these
sometimes
parents.
we'll have our officer will help in that situation and those
Yeah.
kinds of things.
I know.
But really, our policy does not talk about tardiness.
Okay, then we
So,
need to get a
yeah.
policy immediately
I'd
to do
also
that.
be curious to know.
Because it used to be like that.
It was, definitely. I
Yeah.
would be very curious to know how many of these out of your 78 average, which from what I see, I think that's a low average. I'd love to know how many are chronic. Because you see the same
Oh, well, no,
children.
Yeah.
the security guard told me
We
it's the
talked
same
about
kids
this.
every day.
That-
Every
That
day.
disrupts an entire class.
Yeah.
That's the thing, there's 20-some kids.
I have two
Being
questions.
disrupted.
Go ahead.
The first one is, are they passing the classes that they're missing because they shouldn't be? And what is the magistrate's take on this? Because this is my area of certification also. And if a child is missing an equivalent of 3 days absent, which once you add those up and you go to the magistrate, he has to make the decision how he wants to deal with that. And I think that if you do it with 1 or 2 parents, the word will start to spread. And parents really should not just drop their kids off. You don't know whether school closed or something else happened or we're not admitting anybody. That's kind of like neglect also. So those kinds of things sometimes we have to address. I know we're supposed to be responsible for the child from the time they leave their home or their parent drops them off until they go back home again. But that's in loco parentis. So if they just kind of just drop them, what if somebody wasn't out there? What if there was a reason that you had to lock the door for another reason and the kid's standing out? Then you, because we've allowed it to happen, the parent can say, well, they always did it. So that ends up being a practice.
But they didn't
But I
always
will work
do
that through with the magistrate
No,
and see what he
and
says.
truly, it's almost been like, I think post-COVID is more of a, we're experiencing this more, where we're trying to, you know, reinitiate the importance of school and being in here on time and what that means. Now, in the elementary schedule, the way our day starts is we start with like our community meetings in our classrooms. So they're not heading off into, you know, a core class or, you know, they're self-contained
Okay.
classrooms for the most part. So the majority of our kiddos are coming, you know, it's really, unfortunately, minutes of time, but still that's important. But, you know, the parents are just, well, the line is long and this and that. But if they adjust their time, you know, it can be done. We've actually drilled down to students in many of these cases, but to be honest, like it's our chronic absentee rate that we are addressing that we need to focus more on because that's a larger percentage. And those kids are not coming to school. So that a lot of our efforts with Shannon and her intern this year are focusing on like, you know, making sure that those kids that aren't coming, why? Like, and who are they and for what reason? And really targeting and having those discussions. And while we are also looking at the tardies, that, you know, that's getting to the parents' issue. The next thing is another letter to them about you have to be here on time, you need to walk your child in. We were kind of hoping that when we had our school resource officers on site that maybe they'd be helpful in reinforcing like, hey, you can't leave, hold on, you gotta get out of the car, you gotta bring your child in. Because a lot of times, like she was getting blasted with, you know, we kind of need a little bit of backbone out there for that. So we had started that conversation and then, you know, things changed. So that's where we're at. Like we have some focused efforts going on about attendance because we're a TSI school, so we have things in place. But to be honest, like the focus is really on the kids that aren't coming at all. Too, we have to really think about that. She's, you know, only one person too to help manage all that. So.
I know for a fact too, your magistrate doesn't do anything once you take them to the magistrates with the tardiness, because I've been told by the parents, nothing even happens to them.
how many really don't?
Exactly right.
I think like what Kyoko was saying too.
But
like,
that's not your fault, that's their fault.
At the elementary, you're looking at like minutes of time, and our Skyward doesn't necessarily collect the data. I think, you know, when we reflect on what we need to do differently, maybe looking at the Skyward system and also looking at policy.
I was gonna say, I know there was a policy back here, and so Marissa said, when my kids went to school here,
Oh, yeah,
there was,
I mean,
so I don't know what happened to that policy.
Shannon can attest, because I'm a half rat. And I think that's
How somebody got rid of that policy is really beyond me.
Yeah,
That doesn't
oh
make
yeah, you
sense.
know, and I've come in handy to her now many a times, I've
Well,
thrown nothing
we
away.
need a
But
real
I
stricter
said,
policy.
I know in my family handbook at one time, like we talked about, like a 3 tardies equals a something.
Right.
But that's not what our policy says anymore, so based on some changes on that, like my handbook's gonna reflect our policies, so.
There's also a school dress code too, but when you walk into the school and you see how these kids are dressed, you're trying to figure out how their parents let them walk out of the house.
Those parents are
Is there
probably-
anything else?
And they change their clothes when they.
Oh, I know that, but, okay, well, here's the other thing. How do the principals and that let them into the school like that? Here, that's my question. How do you guys let them, I saw, when I was at the high school the other day, Lytton, I don't have that big of a problem with, but the high school, I walked in, a girl had a top on to here, and had a bracelet going across her stomach, with her pants down to here. And I said to the yes guy looked at me, goes, don't we have a dress code? I said, oh, we have a dress code. He goes, well, how's she allowed to walk around looking like that? So that makes no sense to me. But I also saw earbuds and cell phones too, so. Next.
All right, thank you, ladies. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Thanks.
All right, next on the agenda are conference requests. We have the PD Data Summit for Mr. Dervanic and the PDE Educational Practices that Work for Ms. Golden. Okay?
Registration, what, can we do all that
Sorry.
Wait,
Is
I
it-
have a question because, I'm sorry, before we
Yeah.
move on, we didn't discuss the high school as far as like tardies and lates. I mean tardies and absences. We just talked about the elementary school. Were they gonna report on the high school as well? or
Can you
can
please have them
somebody-
send us a report to tell us
Yes.
how many, because that's what we were waiting for.
Cause I'm thinking like at the high
Yeah.
school level with unexcused tardies, at some point, that should equal a detention or something like that. Like,
No,
there
they're
should be a
supposed to go to the
consequence.
magistrate. There used to be, I don't know where all the policies went to, they used to go to the magistrates.
But then you have
I
Saturday.
honestly think they
Right.
probably got nervous.
They have Saturday. I just said that for now.
Yeah.
Did I say
What?
They got
I
nervous.
said I think they probably just got nervous.
They got nervous.
Oh, okay, I was just like, wait,
They
what
got
happened to high
nervous.
school?
That's my opinion. I mean, I agree with Renell.
That's their job.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the
but
truth,
really,
but I'm talking about it.
I'm sure they have the numbers, we just, they have.
Yeah,
would
They
love
do.
to-
I
They
know
said
that.
the
they
number,
actually
us
came
the
with
numbers.
the 4 or 5 questions that were asked, so.
They didn't even answer this.
Yeah,
They got nervous.
they got nervous, their job, okay.
Okay, I will have them.
We kind of got off track.
It's not.
All right. Moving on. Sorry for now.
It's
Thank you.
absolutely not. Go ahead.
All right, are we okay with conferences?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right, there are no field trips, contract resolutions and grants. There's a grant, Tracy Johnson received a Donors Choose of $320 for books for the IU Children's Choice Awards. And for the conferences, is it okay that we go ahead and register them for their hotels and conferences? It's district and Title II. Okay. All right, there's the renewal of the social entertainment technology license. This is for our elementary Imaginarium. It's a annual cost, and that actually comes from Ready to Learn. And the cost has always been the same, and it gives us all new software as they create new programs, etc. Next is the renewal of Learning A to Z with RADS Kids. This is a supplemental reading materials that are used here at the elementary for ELA. This is a 2-year extension. And it's coming from the ESSER 7% set aside. Okay.
Here's one thing, I'm gonna go back to these
Homeschool. Visitors?
The conferences.
Yes.
Okay? Because I'm gonna tell you something right here now, Dan. I already told Nancy this. There's no way in hell I'm doing a tax increase this year. So I wanna look at every one of these conferences, if the district's paying for them, if it's an absolutely necessary conference for people to go. Because if it's not, I'm not voting. Because there, like I said, I am not, with the price of food and everything else going on right now, there is no way I'm going for a tax increase again.
So, I mean, the district compensated
I'm just saying.
conference right now,
I want to look at these conferences, because I know us school board members don't go on conferences, we haven't gone on in a long, long time.
this is,
No problem with that.
this is the state special ed conference.
I understand that, I'm saying that, I want to look at them from now on.
Okay.
Conferences, if the district are paying for them, I want to make sure that it's an actual conference that they need to attend,
Okay.
not just some conference they're going to.
Another thing we could do is ask for a report from the
Absolutely, and that should happen,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Or what has to happen when they get back, or
They do,
with the train?
they do a professional development plan for who and when they're going to train. And we usually work with the building level time. So, okay. All right. Caring Connection for Youth Initiative by Gwen's Girls. Dr. Hines, do you want to talk about that? Or do you want me to?
I'll go ahead. I'm having a little
Okay.
bit of a voice thing here going on. Anyway, this is a new initiative throughout Allegheny County, and it's meant to bring mental health and social services to people who need them in the moment. It's kind of like how I would characterize Childline reports. If you suspect there's a problem, there's an issue within the home, we are mandatory reporters. We have to have training. It's kind of like that, but it's not mandatory. So we wanted to put it on the public record and ask the board through a resolution on January 25th to authorize us to use this particular resource if we need it. Police departments are also being trained in this model so that they can make those referrals as well. So, for example, something that comes to mind, perhaps there's a student somewhere in any of our schools caught stealing food. Perhaps we make a 211 referral for that particular student so that the people on the other end, after they triage, may connect them with a food bank or something like that for the family that solves the core issue that's involved with that theft in the school. So I just wanted to ask permission for us to make the direct referrals as we feel is appropriate. Most likely it would be a counselor, an administrator, or a social worker.
Okay. Under discussion, my monthly ESSER update, the additional expenditures are the 8 reading specialists' salaries and benefits that have come out for the months of December and now January. Item 10 is the curriculum cycle. The last document in your packet is our updated curriculum cycle. And this is a 5-year cycle. Year 1, we research and audit curriculum. We dissect the data, identify gaps, and unpack standards. Year 2, we look at piloting and writing and adopting the both curriculum and any resources that are recommended by the team. Years 3 and 4, this is a 2-year process where they're implementing what we've approved and adopted. So, and then year 5, we evaluate everything and compare the impact on student achievement, both growth and local assessments. Mhm. Honestly, I believe we challenge the kids. I think we, in the classroom, and I can just say from walkthroughs that I've done, you tend to see watering down of things because we think they can't. Mm-hmm. Yes. So we are addressing it. And I'm not saying that in every, Mrs. Vecchio, I'm not saying that in every classroom at all. I'm just saying in several classes that we've been in, it's been an experience. So. Yes.
A better way to say is too much autonomy at the teacher level. I mean, I'll be the one to go on record and say that.
So. Okay. All right. Item 11 is partnering with the GPB-PW to visit Linton and the high school in March for Women's History Month, and they'll share stories at both buildings in regards to successful women. And it's the Greater Pittsburgh Business and Professional Women's Association. Okay. So, targeted gap analysis procedure. So, Ms. Golden and I and Brian Brown have been kind of working with the principals most recently in setting up during their solutions team meetings that happen every other week, targeting and assessing students that have issues either behaviorally, academically, or in attendance. So instead of just that SAP process, it's also, okay, these kids are at risk and heading down an avenue that need to be addressed. Then there's an intervention plan that would be implemented, and we're currently still in the development phase, but we are looking at implementing it fully very soon. Currently, based upon that data, Mr. Brown is pulling from Skyward the key indicators, and they will be sent to the building principal to then disseminate at the solutions team.
Renelle, if I could add, I think the language that I used in a communication with the board was intervention team meetings.
Okay.
And that we're going to be looking, and that's fine, the concept's the same. Ashley, who was just here, our homeschool visitor, social worker from the high school, she's already doing this. She's generating out of the system kids who are at risk based on grades, behavior, attendance. And what we want to generate is pretty much like a caseload. And so there's going to be a group of students who are going to require closer monitoring, follow-ups, and so forth, because we don't want the kids to fall through the cracks, and we want to identify the kids early who are most at risk. So that's the whole philosophy behind this.
So when you're identifying these students,
She said they'll put together a plan, and then they're going to follow through the plan. They're going to monitor it.
is this happening now?
She said they're developing it.
Right.
Yeah, my directive to them was as of January 23rd, let's move forward, and so that's the first stage.
All right, school improvement update. Schools that are currently in school improvement, which we have ATSI and TSI schools within our district, are currently on hold to be redesignated. So we're currently designated based upon 2018 data. And so I want you to keep that in mind. Like, we keep rewriting these plans based upon really old data. But part of why they're on hold is because they're seeking reauthorization under the ESSA plan for PDE. So once they get approval, then they'll start their designation process or redesignation process. So we will then have a better indicator of where we are.
Renelle, if I could just add too, for the board's purposes, so when I went to Harrisburg physically before the winter break, and I've been doing these different meetings with them, and I shared an email with you, it's to bring to their attention that there's redundancy. If you are in financial recovery, you have a financial recovery plan. Then you have a comprehensive plan, which is the former strategic plan. And then you have ATS, TSI plans. You know, we can dot the I's, cross the T's, check the box, but they're not meaningful. Why not merge them all together? If you are in financial recovery, there's only 9 districts across the state, and then you just kind of change everything. You target academically, financially, maybe in terms of the organizational structure. What does this school district need to grow? And so they're using Penn Hills and on our data and so forth to figure that out, to eliminate the redundancy, because they recognize, I mean, I've had them look me in the eye and say a lot of these plans aren't meaningful. You know, you're submitting them according to the deadline, the compliance guidelines, but they're just basic plans. There's not really good substance in them.
Yeah, I mean, and there's more than just what you listed, like Title I plans.
absolutely.
Yeah, like it's a lot.
So, yep.
Speaking of plans, we received a notification yesterday that our buildings did not meet the 95% participation rate for PSSA and Keystone exams last year. So in that notification, we're required to complete a root cause analysis and a written plan for improvement on how we're going to approve attendance during the statewide testing. Today, we started to pool the number of parent opt-out letters because we've had quite a few over the last several years. They've increased, as well as synchronous and cyber that did not come on site to take. So that's the beginning of the analysis. And then we have to submit that plan by January 30th. So, any questions on that part? The last item is the Penn Hills Fire Department wants to come in and set up a table at the high school lunches to advertise for volunteers. Is the board okay with that? Okay, we can certainly let her know that. We'll ask them for a flyer of some sort, and then we'll put it's not school sponsored in. So, all right, that concludes my agenda. I have it written, and I know Terry will make sure too. So, all right, Happy New Year.
I'm negative, I promise you. I'm negative. This happens to me annually. It is, usually it's January, February. I lose my voice, it starts with a tingle in the ear, and then I lose my voice. So far, she's good. Yeah. Yeah, nothing new or different, so.
I did not
that's
follow
good
up
news. Thanks for
with the
asking.
officer. I can tomorrow. You're welcome. Let me know when you're ready, Janice. All right, so we're on the Building Safety and Grounds Committee. I'll acknowledge the minutes from the November 15th, 2022 meeting. If anybody have any questions on those minutes? And next up is Jeff Carney to give a presentation on the current project that's going on and the one that's about to start for Linton.
So for the current project that's ongoing with the high school and elementary school HVAC and plumbing modifications, fortunately, all of the boilers and domestic water heaters are now installed. They're working on finishing up integration of the temperature controls, with that anticipated to be completed hopefully within the next 2 weeks or so that project can finally be wrapped up. The one thing that has come out, talking with Brandon even this morning, was with the recent cold weather, it identified a few areas in both of the buildings where review has to be done on a couple of pieces of equipment to make sure that adequate flows and air flows are available to provide the necessary heating, and that's ongoing. For the 2023 capital improvement projects, there were a total of 8 projects bid. 6 of them have been awarded to move forward, which would include the domestic water system upgrade in the Linton tunnels, the main office HVAC upgrade in Linton, the auditorium HVAC upgrade in Linton, kitchen HVAC upgrade in Linton, and the library and media center HVAC upgrade also in Linton, as well as the field house second floor HVAC upgrade. So projects 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 have been awarded and they're moving ahead. The service tunnels electrical infrastructure was tabled for the moment due to the cost, as well as the natatorium HVAC upgrade. We've had started conversations with the various equipment suppliers and contractors, and due to extended lead times, the dates for completion of the projects are going to be extended out beyond the school years. Right now, it looks like projects 1 and 6, which would be the domestic water in the tunnel, as well as the library and media center, would be the 2 that could be completed actually over the summer this year. The remainder of them, the work will get started, but due to the long lead times, I mean, right now we're hearing 35 to 37 weeks for the cooling equipment and 44 to 46 weeks for the air handling equipment. So it's pushing things out to where they can do some work during the summer to prep things, and then once equipment comes in later in the fall and into next winter, they'd be able to schedule things to actually get the equipment installed. The various contractors have begun the process of all the equipment submittals into us for review and approval so that they can release them for production. And that's sort of where things are at right now. Okay.
With the replacement of the HVAC, if that goes into the school year, then is there a time that students can't be in the facility?
No, the areas that are really affected, it's the kitchen makeup air unit. The library, that one will be done in time for the school year. The main office is another area that's affected. And we've been working with Brandon on looking at alternate areas that the people could be housed while this work's going on. So it shouldn't really affect any of the occupied student areas.
Yeah, like during the summer, we'll relocate the middle school office to a different area, so work can be done in there. And in the areas that we're working on, we're going to try and do a lot of the demo work and prep as much prep work as we can during the summer. When equipment comes in during the school year, a lot of it's in mechanical rooms, so they're going to be isolated, not in any student areas throughout the day. The days that they need to actually put equipment on the roof or anything like that, they'd have to do it on a second shift or on Saturdays. Or if there's a scheduled no school day, because I don't want a crane with equipment on the roof with anyone in the building at that time.
And that won't affect the temperatures in the building either, if there's extreme temperature?
No, because we're not air conditioning the whole building, it's only these 4 little areas. Right now with the kitchen, that heater actually, the coil on that actually broke over Christmas break. So there's no heat in the kitchen. We've got a temporary unit in there. And in the office, there's outside like radiant heat along the outside perimeter of the office. Once the temperatures drop down a little more this winter, I actually want to turn the air handling unit off to see if the office can maintain the heat with just the radiant unit. So that way we know if the contractors can demo out the air handler during the summer. It does.
No, it does.
It's so hot in there. It's
Yes.
so hot.
Plenty of heat.
We have the air conditioning, it is so hot in there.
Yeah.
So he's trying to,
Sometimes she's dying because it's so hot in there. So now in the wintertime, she's dying too because it's so hot.
Yes.
This poor woman,
it's all my stuff.
what did you do when you were younger?
I'm too old to be in hot all the time, Mrs. Vecchio.
I couldn't take hot, sorry.
No, I have
Yep.
a hard time with it too. Ask Brandon.
Yep, she has all her windows open, so I don't say a word.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the heating issue should be addressed during the summer
Yes.
with the repiping, so.
So once we get everything done, she'll actually have controllable heat and air conditioning once it's finished. Any other questions? All right. Transportation. You gonna come on up, Colleen?
North Hills School District has asked us to provide transportation for a student that will be living in short-term placement at an address here in Penn Hills, and they'll pay their share of the transportation cost for that. All the buses have now finished having the security cameras installed, and I think you have a report that we put together of how many trips for the charter and cyber schools have been canceled this year, and since the start of school, it's been 16 trips. Today, there was one additional one added on, so 17 as of today. Any questions? No? Okay. Uh-huh. We've been trying to use them. We've put in like 3 requests. So far, it's taken them a while to get drivers, and like just today, actually, we've had this request in with them and with Christ for this one student, and they both were having difficulties getting it. Well, we finally got it where Christ can now do it, and go figure, this afternoon, we got an email from Everdriven that they could now provide the transportation when we don't need it anymore. So we've had a hard time we've tried 3 times for 3 different situations, and we have not been able to use them yet, but hopefully it'll get better.
Let me clarify, Everdriven is different than the CMU project.
Yes.
So the CMU project, excuse me, was a collaboration of districts. The analytics were all put together by the CMU professors who participated. There were 2 of them. And what happened was it was tabled during COVID, as you're aware, and then they tried to reinstate it. We worked especially close with East Allegheny, who was one of the partners, to see if we could share rides to and from private schools such as Presley Ridge and so forth. But because of the driver shortage, and because locally each of the districts is canceling some routes almost every day, or combining them, it really took that off the table. Jamie Baxter, Allies for Children, is the contact. I really think like Everdriven now has changed the whole market, and I honestly think that idea, although I like the concept, it's now outdated, and I think Everdriven.
Yeah.
So we did a ton of planning, it just never got off the ground.
And there's another one that's going to be starting in the Pittsburgh area, and it might have already done it in the city, called Hop, Skip, and Jump, I think it's called. So that's another option that we can try to use too, when we, when they expand to Penn Hills area.
Add one more thing under here. I'm going to put it under transportation, but let me explain why. So we're going to ask you for a policy exception. The policy is number 202, and that talks about who is eligible to attend our public school. And typically, it has to be somebody with a Penn Hills or a select Verona address. Those are the only people who may attend our schools. We don't accept tuition students. Some districts do, we don't. We have a particular student, Ashley, who was here earlier, homeschool visitor, social worker from the high school, has been working with the family. The family was displaced, so they were covered under McKinney-Vento, but now they have since found permanent housing in an adjacent community. I'll just leave it at that. The family is using an advocate, but regardless, they're asking, could this high school student stay enrolled, no cost to the district, in the sense that they will provide their own transportation for the child to and from school, but through the end of this school year. So June, first week of June, we had a family from Plum last year that they moved, and we allowed it. Our policy does allow it for seniors, if the board agrees, but this one is a little bit younger. It feels like the humane thing to do, and if they travel, on their own. So you're going to see that resolution, and I hope that you'll approve it on January 25th. Thank you.
All right, good evening. All right, so on the topic of attendance, one of the things we have not been doing since we adopted Skyward as our student information system is doing any sort of attendance notifications. So we are starting that practice again. We are only using SMS text and email, though. We're reserving the phone call for the most severe emergency situations. So we don't want parents to be desensitized to the fact when they get a phone call, they need to know that it is emergency. So we're starting to do that at the elementary, and we'll phase that in at the other buildings. But we had several elementary parents contact us and request that. Yeah. What's that? You do? I'll have to check on that. Late to class or late to the school day? Okay, that is the homeroom period, so that would be, so that's what we changed. So at the elementary, they're getting it like 9:45. So it was sending an email at the end of the day, but at that point for the elementary students, the parents have already put them on the bus. So parents were asking for a notification at the beginning of the day, just so that they know that their student got to school on time and got to school safely. We can certainly phase that in at the other buildings. Yeah. Yeah. So, So Skyward is just set up. It's their design. It's how they build their program, that they do an end of day notification, and we were able to push one. We're manually able to put a notification out at the beginning of the day. We can phase that into all three buildings. It's working at the elementary. I haven't heard any complaints, so we can do that. Item 2, with the rollout of our new website, I thought it might be time now to shorten our domain and shorten our email domain to a much more manageable 4 letters as opposed to the long ones that we're using now. So with the launch of our new website, we're going to go to @phsd.org. So right now we own that domain, and if you try to send an email to @phsd.org, you will get the intended recipient. We're just going to reverse that. So if you send it to the long one, you're still going to get who you want. If you go to phsd.k12.pa.us, you're still going to get our website. It's just when we start advertising, we'll be advertising at phsd.org. Third item is classroom printers. So I just got our first bill for overages. So at the end of the year, our ComDoc contract sends us a bill for overages, and it was around $3,000. And the thing that startled me was that when I counted how many classroom printers we have on there, it was like 163. So that's 163 toner cartridges and 163 printers that we have to support. So we're going to phase those out. That was actually recommended to us during our last technology audit. We already have centralized printing. Everyone has access to a printer. It's not changing anything. It's just the convenience of having it right there in your room. We're going to eliminate that. It's going to save us quite a bit because our contract is going to go down. So we're going to renegotiate that part of our contract because we're not going to need those extra supplies. All right, device replenishment cycles. So the pandemic, we had to accelerate our transition to a one-to-one initiative. So we're trying to get into a cycle. So what I'm proposing is our kindergartens will remain using the iPads. Our first graders will get a Chromebook instead of an iPad. So students will get new devices in kindergarten, first grade, 5th grade, and 9th grade. That way it's a 4-year cycle, so we'll update their device those 4 years, and we'll only be collecting devices at the end of kindergarten, at the end of 4th grade, and at the end of 12th grade and 8th grade, yes. All right, so the other thing, by switching to a Chromebook and starting to phase out our Surfaces, the insurance costs go down too. It's about roughly half the amount to insure a Chromebook than it is to insure the Surface Pros. So we'll save some money there as well. Yeah. So it's an interesting question. The problem is that, as you've probably seen in your board agendas, some of our devices are paid with federal funds. You can't give them the device if it's paid for with federal funds. So it would be nice. We'd love to do that. Unfortunately, it's against the law. So on the topic of insurance, we're paying around $108,000 right now for insurance, and this is another item on here. One of the things I looked at, we had about 3 incidents of theft last year. It costs us $10 per device to insure for theft. If you do the math, for 1,000 devices, it's like $10,000 when we only had 3 incidents of theft. So one of the things I'm looking to do is to remove theft from our insurance coverage.
So here's my question then, why aren't you charging the parents, making them pay for the insurance?
They are paying, but it's only $10, and that's a discussion item too, because we're eating most of that cost right now. And if you've seen some of our devices that we get back and how they're treated, I may bring in a show and tell at a future board meeting.
So did we discontinue, because we were counting, you were saying that parents were responsible for that $10. However, we knew that some would not, be able to. But are we not asking anymore for that?
We are asking, we send out numerous notifications, about a third of our parents pay the $10 for insurance, about a third.
If my device is broken, okay, let's say I didn't pay the insurance. If my device is broken and I bring it to you and say, hey, for whatever reason, this screen cracked or whatever, is there like, okay, you have to pay the $8 deductible or whatever the deductible is?
Sometimes the parents will pay the insurance there, because we've already paid the insurance. Sometimes they'll pay the portion and cover it, and other times we don't get it, and then we invoice them, and then it goes on a whole card. And the problem is the only thing we have to hold over them is graduation. So you think that you do it in 8th grade, as you got another 4 years until you have to pay. I've looked at other districts. Other districts, they pay up front a certain amount, like $25. Then if they break the device, there's a deductible that they have to pay. We could look at some things. I can do some investigation and come back to the board and bring some more information. You'd be shocked at how many devices pass through our office on a daily basis that are broken in various stages. Website redesign project. So we are up and running. By the end of the month, we should be ready to start adding content to the new website. We are launching a mobile app with the website that will allow us to do push notifications as another communications tool. That will be available on Google Play and the App Store. Surveillance system upgrades. So Linton and the high school are fully completed. We have fully operational cameras at those buildings. We are working right now on this building. Work began over the Christmas break. So that is ongoing. The one thing you'll see in your agenda for tonight is that project was kind of already in motion whenever I took over in July. We did a walkthrough with the contractors on which cameras were being replaced. There were a number of areas throughout the building, around the perimeter of the building, that I didn't feel the coverage was sufficient. I think that's one of the things that whenever they did the high school project and they put all the cameras there, it was great, and they added a ton of cameras there, but not as many at the elementary. But there are areas in the building where we need enhancements. So you will see on there are 2 quotes. One is for $38,525 for additional cameras in areas that do not have coverage. And then the second quote is for an additional data closet, because all of our data closets are full. That's one of the things that they cut back on at the elementary. So we need to add an additional data closet, and that is for $21,080. Next item is asset management. So one of the things I've noticed in the first few months being on the job is how difficult it is to track the 3,200 devices that we have, and which ones are being repaired, tracking fines, tracking comings and goings, and so forth. So one of the things we desperately need is an asset manager. We're currently using WASP. The problem is it doesn't talk to Skyward. So we did some research. The same company that creates the software for our libraries for checking out books also creates a resource manager, and we've done our homework. And so you'll see on the agenda an item for, I think it's 960678. And then just an update on our switches. We're still waiting. It's still a supply chain issue. We were supposed to receive delivery on or about 12/31/2022. That date is come and gone. We're still waiting. We've been requesting updates almost every 2 weeks. So the two items, we're asking for ratification on the ZICOM agenda items so that we can move forward with that project, and also to ratify the asset manager so that we can begin the onboarding on that to get that up and running so we're fully onboarded before we start collecting devices in June. Any questions? Oh. Thank you.
Okay, under health and safety, the Safe to Say tips that were received, you see them listed on one of the pages 1 through 9. Going to also just add a piece, board is already aware that a fire alarm was pulled at Linton yesterday by a young child who was there with the family registering as a new student. I'm not sure, but they have it on video, it's captured, so that's what happened. We were outside for a while.
It was in the foyer part, and they're lower. I mean, they're lower, because, well, they can, I mean, kids can reach them.
Yeah, it was right at his head height.
I mean, he just went, like, you can watch it on video clear as day. He just went, he looked, I mean, he's
4.
gonna start, he's starting.
Did he come in here?
Yes, probably,
Yes,
we
he's
hope.
coming. Actually, he's older than 4. I thought he was 4.
Oh,
He's
okay.
actually going to first grade with Mrs. Brown.
Okay.
But I did call the parent. Oh, I did, because I did call the parent and inform her that he could be expelled if he does it when he comes to school. Right.
I mean, that's the whole thing, that's a crime.
So that's a big no-no. So,
Okay, so there's a list of the Safe to Say there. I think that we recognize there's a trend, there's an increase, uptick over the holiday season. I think that's typical. And some of these are multiple reports for the same situation. Right before the break, we did see a little bit of a prank type of response from some Linton students. We cannot identify specifically who they were. But even when the operator will call me directly from Harrisburg, the operators, I mean, they're very well-trained and very savvy. Will say, I don't know about this one, but I'm just going to call you anyway so that you know. So you'll see that. Also, the reference to right before the winter break, December 23rd, we were off school, but we did have some non-pubs and charter schools who were in session or scheduled to be in session, and we canceled transportation because we didn't want to, put anybody at risk. Okay, the latest pandemic update that is attached, board received generally a copy of what I send to Stephanie, and he asked her to post. Again, I'm going to put that regular disclaimer. There is no way in this world that I think those are the only cases of COVID among our schools, within our schools. This is all about honor system and self-reporting, but that's what we have confirmed, so I have to post that again until all the ESSER funding is depleted. We have a legal obligation to continue to do that. Specific to that, too, I want to just mention for D there, it's a little bit out of order, the mid-year health and safety plan. As part of ESSER funding, we must do a safety plan to start the school year, and then there must be a mid-year review. So on the January 25th agenda, you'll see a resolution to accept the mid-year review. There's not really anything new or different. Things are pretty much the same. Certainly some of the language is cleaned up to make it reflect the second semester, but no substantial changes included. Okay, the student disciplinary stats, this is just a repeat, a cut and paste of what the board receives at the end of every week. And I want to just reference too that we'll be working with Jane, the solicitor's office, on a data sharing agreement specific to that PDE action research project, and they want to use Penn Hill's data. WestStat is a research group. They have a base in Maryland, and one of the researchers wants to go through and churn our numbers completely separate from us. No bias on our part, to go through and churn student and discipline numbers to see if any of the changes that we've made to our model, to see if there's any different. Also going to be looking at demographic information for teachers versus demographic information for the class, and to see are there any patterns, any trends as we try to diversify our staff. Any questions on that? Okay. Flip over to the next one. Okay, school safety updates under the last grouping of disciplinary stats. Board is well aware Resignation of our new school police supervisor, Keith Lazarin, that was effective January 10th. There will be a resolution to accept the resignation on January 25th. Board is aware of a lot of different ideas about how we go or where we go from here, and I'd like to save those for our January 25th executive session because they do directly affect the school in terms of security and safety, and I don't think it would be wise to talk about those things publicly. So one of the guidelines is every district must have an Act 44 safety coordinator. As you know, I've been that for a couple years. Several years ago, we had an employee who was an EMT, and he was our first Act 44 safety coordinator. So we'll plug my name back in. It'll be a placeholder for now. Also, reinstatement of the second PHPD active duty police officer position at the high school. Given this change in personnel, it would make sense that we have that second position invested at the high school. I met with Chief Como last week. We had a very, very productive meeting and made it clear, and he accepted and he understood completely that that extra position, in a sense, can be pulled as needed. And even once we have our booths up and running in the driveways, if there is somebody absent, and we still have to decide who's going to man those booths. But anyway, that extra police officer could be pulled. There's nothing that that officer cannot do. If there's a lot of yes staff off at Linton Middle School, that officer can be pulled from the high school to go down and help Sandy and the team there. So I just want to make you aware of that. Chief Como and I are going to participate at Pitt next week, January 19th. It's a Thursday. It is a panel discussion about having police, guns, if you will, in schools. We know that our model is very unique. I don't know of any other school districts that's using active duty police officers. Most are following a more traditional school resource officer model where there's one person who is working that school, and that person does not change. We rotate through active duty police officers who want to work overtime in the school. So they self-select. There's a lot of benefits to that. Just real quick to reiterate, if an officer, let's say, for example, works a lot of time here overtime, they know the layout of the school. So if there would be a situation, they would be able to guide. They also are going to assume control in that moment. They're not going to ask a private security company or anybody else. They're going to take charge of that. And then also, there's a lot of police forces that are trying to build relationships with communities. They do coat drives, they play games, they have community-wide events. This is kind of, I think it's superior to that because it's every day we're learning to coexist. You see an officer in a uniform, kid walks by, they may talk, may not. I mean, we're just not in kids' faces. We don't want that model. And so anyway, Chief and I are going to be at the table. Gwen's Girls is sponsoring that. And there's going to be, I don't want to say testimony, but positions presented that are completely different from that. And that say that Black children in particular are very vulnerable to arrest. The data across the nation supports that. And we're trying to be our own best practice model and show that we can manage this. If we get the right personalities and we manage well, that we'll do well with that. So that's disproportionality is the big concern. And there's a video they're going to show. And it's supposed to be pretty profound about, the school police relationship and how damaged it is.
Happening in elementary school. Are all your people coming through those metal detectors?
Outside people.
Yes.
Visitors, yes.
Children? Okay, so why not?
That was a decision that was made at the district level that we did not put children at this age through metal detectors.
Okay, so you should just tell that to yeah, I just said that there's just a teacher that just got shot by a 6-year-old. So I think everybody should come to that metal detector. I don't care who they are.
Our teachers look at them in their bags, when they get to home, when the teachers do a bag search.
They do, that's part of their morning routine. They
Okay, you can stop, because I told you that one day, that I was in here, that I went around and watched after the kids came in. So they must do it later on in the day and not right there in the morning, because I observed teachers not doing it.
As kids come in the door, they're coming over. Some stand at the door and do it.
Did not see it.
So I would say if you want to make a wholesale change where the kids are going to line up out front and come through metal detectors like they do at the high school. Okay.
When they come into class, I just want them to actually look.
Okay.
And I do have a problem though that everybody's not walking through that metal detector. I mean, right now with what's going on in this
Well,
world,
yeah, so,
I don't trust anybody when
so,
it comes to this. Kids are getting guns at the age of 6 and shooting teachers.
but logistically, think about this though, the high school, there's 7 stations, I believe, is that right, Eric? 7 points where those kids come in. There are more kids here, and we have a backup in the parking lot in the morning. So we have to think about logistics, that's why, one of the reasons, age was a factor, but also logistically to have them be checked in the morning.
I think that every child and person, everybody should have.
Okay, and if we go in that direction, I would just ask that we have the summer to plan that out, what that looks like. Okay.
In the future, that I think you should protect everybody. I don't care if you got.
I also do, as of now, I think it's important that we reinforce the teachers.
Absolutely, because like I told you that one day when I was in here, and I complained to Nancy, I'm like, they're not checking these bags.
So that needs to be reinforced.
Okay, I got to know.
I mean, there's too much stuff going on in this world
And
right
that's,
now, not to.
and I think we need to make the message clear that we are going to.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Okay. All right, got that.
Absolutely.
All right, so letter F is very similar to what the PDE project is. This is just something that's more for Allegheny County. They're partnering with Georgetown University. You've seen notes about this project in my weekly reports. And really what we're kind of doing in the school district already, they're going to expand out to the community police forces. So Chief Como is part of this, and there will be training for the Penn Hills police officers and other jurisdictions as they become part of it. But the idea of pre-arrest diversion for low-level offenses, kids who are deemed not to be a danger, and it ties in with that 211, carrying connections, stealing food. Is that something that has to go through the actual court system? So there's discretion, and so they want to describe exactly what may have a second look, because they find out that there's a clique in all communities, all organizations. If you know somebody, you get different consideration than if you don't know anybody. You don't know how to navigate the system, you're going to get jammed up, get the max, and somebody who knows it is going to skate right through. So that's part of it. I just want to make you aware of that. And the other is just the repeat of the caring connections. The K-9 drill updates, again, this is a report just for a repeat for the public record. We did the latest K-9 drills. You see the elementary had their first one, no hits, what the results are. And then safe spaces, we are finally getting to the point where we're going to launch. We designated that the start of the second semester, high school students who are interested are going to have an opportunity to get homework help, have dinner from 3 to 5, Monday through Thursday, and then from 5 to 7, specific programming. UPMC has been an amazing partner. They want to sponsor a ton of activities, a ton of sessions, and some will be family-friendly, where you can bring somebody with you. And in some of those sessions that are family-friendly, they may be actually interviewing on site for open positions at UPMC. Well, we're going to take care of it. We have a planning meeting tomorrow to map it out. Stephanie's going to be there, Brandon's going to be there because it affects the building, Eric's going to be there, and others. The really positive thing, and I put it in the board report last week, was that I asked the county specifically for this shuttle that we're going to use these Allegheny County grant funds for. So at 7 o'clock, a shuttle is going to come and take the kids. You know, there'll be certain parts of Penn Hills where they'll drop off. It won't be to the house. It won't even be to the standard bus stop in most cases, but zones. So they'll drop off. We can put our student athletes on that. They're allowed to do that. We just have to claim them in terms of the documentation. Stephanie already does a study table for the sports teams. We can incorporate that into the tutoring part. And she does a meal for a lot of the athletes for the later practices. We can incorporate that and we can bill the grant. It is amazing. And I was very clear. I disclosed what the ulterior motive was, and they said it's okay. So we would be compliant. That's pretty exciting. Now you see the terms listed there. There'll be a winter, a spring, and then summer. We're going to shift to daytime hours to give the kids something meaningful to do. We know that we lost a bowling alley years ago. We don't have a movie theater. We don't have a YMCA. And so we want to have something for the kids that's safe, something that's fun, connect them with positive role models and mentors. and maybe even job opportunities. So that's the thought behind this. And I'm going to have to hire a coordinator at some point. We'll make it really, really clear that this is not any type of guaranteed position. It's not a union position. It's going to be very unique and distinct, and that retention or extension will be based on the continuation of grant funds. So if we lose the money, we're not obligated to keep that person on. I've interviewed a couple very, very sharp candidates. Whoever is the final person to be named, that person's going to be on site, going to be helping with management, also with some of the violence prevention, things that are going to be developed throughout Allegheny County, but specific to Penn Hills. That person's going to be the point of contact. So they're going to have a lot to do. So those are the updates on safety and security. It is exciting. It's taken a long time, but it's going to start small. I mean, I guarantee you the first day we'll probably have a handful.
It was 71 degrees earlier when we did. Two walls over. Right.
Oh, yeah, so we have, like, that's part of our teacher family to home school communication. So there's like a red folder that's like their take-home folder, that comes out, they're checking that, they're looking at agendas, those kinds of things, notes that are coming in play. Like, you'll see the little ones, they'll have the backpack on their back, and a lot of them are like, just turn around and they get all their stuff out, and the teachers are, kind of like, their language is, are you bringing, make sure you don't have anything you don't need, only what you need for school. And that could include like, toys, whatever, or discouraging any little thing like that that's coming.
Okay, so when they come in the morning,
Yeah.
the expectation is that they go to their classroom, their teacher
Yep.
checks the red folder because
Yeah.
that's the communication back
Yeah,
and forth.
so that's
with
part of
them.
the thing, like, when we first designed, this was when the building opened, way back when, and how to handle the idea of like safety and, it was decided no metal detectors, and it was on the teachers to kind of, in a way that's not alarming to 5-year-olds, because we have 5 to 11-year-olds now, granted, we have added 5th grade on, but you still have those little ones, you don't want to scare them, like, do you have any guns in your back? We're not doing that, but we're just like, just checking, making sure, hey, clean out your book bag, you really don't need Snuffy here today, he's staying home in bed, like that kind of conversation with the kids as they come in the door.
Okay,
Yeah.
I apologize. I was just being new, I just want to.
Oh, no, yeah, you should come visit.
I do plan on it.
Okay, great.
All right. Moving on to general custodial maintenance, buildings and grounds. I have a lot of packets in here, so I'm not going to read through everything. This one here gives you an update of where we're at with the current boiler project and other projects we've been working on in the district. You are seeing more red, so that means they're getting completed. We're getting close to the finish of the project of the boilers here. We're getting close to a punch-out list. We have individual isolated issues that we got to go through right now. One thing I'd like to ask with the school board is, with the project, we had planned we expected to find heating coils that would be plugged. So we have to replace so many heating coils in each of the buildings. We haven't found that so far. We've had 7 change orders. At the high school, those change orders totaled a little over 17,000. Elementary school is almost 18,000. Those change orders have come out of that. The funds have already been set aside in the project for those replacing those coils. We still have $98,000 left in that area. Now, if we can be under budget, that's what my goal is. But to help finish all these little discrepancies we have, I would like your permission to have R&B Mechanical, that's the contractor on site, to help us go through and help resolve some of these things, whether it's still a air filter that needs changed or a actuator, something like that. Just do it on a T&M basis, have them track their stuff. I'll review it. Jeff Carney will review it and confirm that stuff's been done. Would I be able to get approval to move forward with that? They went through and checked over a lot of the preliminary stuff. They didn't change filters. They weren't responsible. Correct, and I'm still, here's my,
I'm paying somebody twice. If I'm paying the custodians to change the filters, and I'm gonna pay a company to come make sure the filters are changed?
I'm still finding a lot of units at the high school has 180 units are above the ceiling. And we're still discovering where they're at. And some filters haven't been changed in 10 years.
Your custodians were told exactly where they were at. Because the people that were sitting in the audience the one night, your custodians were all sitting there saying, Jackie heard too. They knew exactly where those things were, and this is what they said. We weren't told we weren't supposed to change.
Yep.
I'm not paying a company to come in here and do something with the custodian's job.
And then, okay, so my question with that. So, if you get a company to come and do it, does that then become a union grievance because they're able to do it?
Well, I would talk to our HVAC person, make sure he's in agreement with it.
I would suggest
But
we
to-
not talk about that in public.
So while you're in the report, I think it needs to be thought.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right. We can revisit that, not a problem. Next up is the next pamphlet you have here is just a review of the projects and the costs. In the middle on this first page, you'll see the electrical quotes. So we received 2 quotes. We went through CoStars with this for just the mechanicals work. Merit Electrical was $166,173, and Industrial Electric Corp was $231,571. I asked Jeff Carney to review both of their quotes, make sure he didn't see any indiscrepancies, because with CoStars, we don't have to go with the lowest quote, but being that it's $60,000, I mean, right now my proposals go with Merit Electrical, and you'll see that on the January 25th board meeting. Jeff reviewed the timelines on this, so that's on the next pages. I am not going to review those. You can go over those. On the third page, we have additional costs on the asbestos. The asbestos bid is still out. We had the pre-bid meeting yesterday. I had 2 companies show up for the pre-bid meeting, so I'm happy to see that. And then on January 25th, you will see on the agenda for approval the Linton PA system, which is at $50,000. The district-wide roof repairs, we talked about just doing the priority A. That cost there is an estimated cost. I'm still waiting to get the specs on that. The Linton elevator, the repairs for that's $150,000. Dodson Engineering actually estimated the repairs for that to be $300,000, so we're half of that. And that is a CoStars quote through IEC, so you will see that on the board agenda for approval. Boiler repair at the field house, that's a budget number of $90,000. I'm still waiting to get some quotes on that. And the water leak at the Linton boiler room is an estimated cost of $50,000 as well. I'm meeting with a couple different companies tomorrow and another one next week to get hard numbers on that. Linton Auditorium, you can see prices we're moving on that. I plan to have the Linton Auditorium and the Linton Gym, all the prices ready for approval on January 25th board meeting. Then moving on, next topic, last time we discussed this, we talked about having possibly some construction management to help oversee all these various projects going on. And I did reach out to Thomas and Williamson for a quote. Since we didn't have them involved in the very beginning, they'd be more like a owner's representative assistant than an actual construction manager, just because so they don't overlap doing the same things Dodson Engineering's already doing. But their estimate came in at $80,000. Came in a little higher than I thought it would be. And looking at what extra things they would provide, I don't necessarily see the value in it. So I reached out to Dodson Engineering, for the boiler project, they gave us some hourly rates for additional help. So I've asked them to provide that for this. I did not get that for this meeting. And I don't see the attachment on mine for all the points of what Dodson was doing and compared to Thomas and Williamson, so I can email that to you. I apologize. RV, just a pamphlet like this, does not have the blue highlight. It's 2 pages. It says construction management at the top. I apologize. It should have been the 3rd stapled item you had. Oh. Excellent. Sorry for the confusion. Thomas Williamson's $80,000. Now, RVE, which is the parent company of Dodson, they're the ones that help civil engineers to helping with the paving. Jeff Carney said they normally provide some extra oversight for the paving, and they provide that proposal of $42,500, and I'm not proposing to approve that. I think that is too much, and there is some things that are overlapping of what they're already contracted to do. So I've asked clarification on that. If anything, it might need them out just for a couple visits, and it would just be an ancillary set hourly rate. I would not, certainly not $42,000. Reason why I did all this is all the projects going on with projects we talked about, Linton's Gym, Linton Auditorium, the roofing, all the in-house work. My hands are going to be full, so that's why we're looking for additional assistance. I know in the past we have talked about looking if there's possible to get an assistant for the plant department. I'm not sure if that's a viable option as well right now. So that's why we're looking through the different options of this construction management to help. I already talked about the asbestos bids, winter storm damage over Christmas break. We had some damages just like all the other school districts did, but we managed to stay out of the news for it. I have to give props to Todd Daly. He's our HVAC guy. Before break, we both came together and talked about wanting to check buildings, and he pretty much volunteered to be willing to check them Friday, December 23rd, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. So we didn't have major issues. Each day he was in, he had small minor issues. And then on Monday is when we found the water main break at Linton, and then the other breaks that happened in the boiler room and stuff. But we got everything repaired, whether in-house or contracted out. So we were ready to open school on Tuesday after New Year's. It was left unlocked. The Thursday before break, we had a contractor in. It was actually up on the roof, so that's why it did not get relocked. But normally that door is locked.
Do you know who the contractor was?
Yes, but they don't have the key to lock it, so it was somebody from my department that didn't relock the door. Yes. I addressed it to make sure that second shift, they should be checking all exterior doors, including the penthouse doors. I know they do that here as well. And then last thing I wanted to highlight on here is last page is the paper recycling. That is going on here at the high school. One of the teachers with the junior class is doing the recycling here. Mrs. Barker's working on it. Was starting up with her student council at the middle school. And down here at the elementary school, Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Bay is working on it. They just developed a student leadership team to get that organized. Yes, it's on call. Basically, Daniel Hack, the teacher at the high school, is in charge of it. Yes, this one's been removed. The one at Linton is actually not there right now either. So the only one we have is the one at the high school. Yeah, so the teacher has the contact information to contact them, and when it's full, they'll come and empty it. So when they start the programs here, we're just going to leave it as the one paper recycling dumpster, and our delivery guy from the plant department will take up the recycling up to the building. You're welcome. Guard shack update, it's next little one pager, just tells you where we're at with that. I'm not gonna go over all of that stuff. And then the last one I have for you is just, in a couple weeks, I'll officially been here for 1 year. It's one aspect it's flown by, and another aspect I feel like I've been here 3 years already. Yep. Couple extra grays, couple extra pounds, but it's been a pleasure. It's been an experience. I appreciate all the support you've provided. I appreciate all the support I get from Dr. Hines and the directors and administration here. Yes.
I was contacted yesterday from a swim team parent, and she said something about black sludge around the area of the pool. Can we take a check and see? I guess there's a lot of snickering when teams come in because our area is so much older than any other area. And I think it would be nice if we could just try to maybe maintain it better than we do, make it look
There's
nice.
grant money out
Yeah.
there for right now for that, so if you look into that and you see grant, because there's grant money out there for everything. But I know for athletic stuff and all that, there's grant money out there, so if you look to see if like anything to improve the pool, let me know and I'll contact Jay.
All right.
Now, I don't know, this isn't something I think I told her, this isn't something that was through extra or anything, available. Their lane ropes are deteriorating, their blocks, when they have the swim meets, the, diving blocks, those are deteriorating. They have quite a few issues within the swim team itself.
Hey, but why don't you contact Stephanie on that?
Well,
You have?
well, that, not me, they said they have brought it to the attention, but I think Monica has the money.
Okay, well, there's money out there, so somebody should be going to get the money.
And their feelings are very hurt because when the weekly athletic schedules are put out, they never say swim teams. Swim meets. Well, according to the parents, not on a regular basis. Well, not on a regular basis.
I know, but there's money out there, so Stephanie should be looking at it. That's not.
Yep. We'll look at it. I'll talk to Steph about the lane markers and the black weights and stuff. Okay. Yeah, Miss Barker just said like 6th grade swimming in it right now. They haven't said anything. I'm surprised about the black sludge. The custodian that's there, he does a great job with having the pool cleaner in it. He's religious about that and always on top of it. And with the chemicals,
I did let her know, I've known her for years, and I said, when my son swam here, I can tell you, it was the best.
It was immaculate,
When I
yeah.
was everywhere on my swim team, and we had the best area.
I don't see any black sludge. I mean, things are old. I mean, it's an old swimming pool.
yeah.
Remember, it's functioned as of 1969.
Right.
And I keep saying this, and I've said it for years, if you would just rent that thing out to seniors and other places, you'd make a lot of money because they can't find pools to swim at anymore. So, I mean, and I know seniors have been trying to get that pool.
I think the only, the issue,
Right, oh, okay, well, we should start looking into it again. Yeah, but they're so
Yep.
cheap to get.
that would be up to them.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they have to be, back when we were doing this,
Mary doesn't, Mary makes them for people that they have to get their own lifeguard.
right, but they always did, but for here, when we were doing this years ago, when we would do swimming things for kids, those lifeguards have to be registered through this.
Right, and the county.
So,
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Brandon.
You're welcome. I have permission to ratify items A through K. Can I get your permission to move forward on those? Thank you very much. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, February 8th.
Can't wait. A year and how many weeks, Brandon?